Is there any merit, Mike? Sally Jenkins wrote a column over the weekend that argued to sit RG3 and let him learn and sit there and sort of take in. And is there any merit to that argument? And then our colleague Jason Reed sort of wrote a rebuttal the next day saying, no, the best way for him to learn is by playing. Is there any merit to sitting him and seeing Cousins?
Yeah, well, there's merit for Sally because she needed to produce a column that day. But look, I respect her opinion on it, and I would assume that she's talked to coaches and not just come up with that out of thin air. So it's a thought. My thought is completely the opposite, and I do agree with Jason Reed on this, that this season, while everybody wanted to go to the playoffs and take the next step in this town and in that organization, this season and these first 3 years of the RG3 era were about Robert Griffin III's maturity and development as an elite quarterback in this league. And to me, for you to develop and become that guy, unless you're hurt, unless you're physically banged up and it causes you problems out there and you put yourself at further risk for another catastrophic injury, I don't see how you take him off the field. You know, if he's learned anything, I don't know if anybody saw this, but that game last week, one of the things that people see in scouting is that he can be basically chased out of the pocket pretty easily with a push up the middle, and that's when he throws the complex passes over the top that get him in trouble. Well, whatever they did to work on it, he got rid of the ball a lot earlier. He became check down guy at times, and now maybe he resorted that too often, but it's still all of a sudden. You got to learn that. You know, you got to learn that. All the great ones learn to be a check down guy when their hot routes are covered, when they're intermediate.
You have to see your routes.
Right. And so he needs. So you don't see those routes just watching Kirk Cousins.
Right.
You see those routes when a guy is bull rushing you, and you've got a second to react.
Let me ask you to be more specific to the column you wrote today, which is the relationship between RG3 and Shanahan. How important is that? Do you see any way of Shanahan mending that relationship before the end of the season? And if not, are the last 4 games more important as far as how the team plays rather than their specific relationship?
I still think much of it has to do with winning. And I'm not saying they got to run the table, but I do think that at some point you have to feel good about what's happening going forward. And when I say mend their relationship, I don't know if it's broken forever. I don't know if they've already put that aside and said we got to win football games now. I do know down deep there's a little resentment on both sides that needs to be taken care of. And before Mike Shanahan comes back, if he doesn't have a conversation with that about Robert Griffin III, he certainly needs to have a conversation with about Dan Snyder, because everybody says, well, is Mike Shanahan going to be back? Does he want to come back if that's his relationship with his starting quarterback? If his starting quarterback is always going to go off message in a press conference.
No, but the culture here has changed. I mean, it's a changed culture.
That's right. I'm sorry.
What you're saying
That's
totally
right.
This is not the Jim Zorn Redskins.
It cannot be accurate.
Give Shanahan a little bit of credit.
There's
Come on,
more coaches here than Jim Zorn, man.
Yeah, because in
Zorn,
the
same results.
You're right, LeVar.
Jim Zorn had more success than Mike
in the Zorn era, wide receivers would do things like kick balls and get unsportsmanlike penalties.
Fair enough.
And there would be a loss of composure on the field. That never happened with Mike Shanahan.
I don't recall Jim Zorn's quarterback having a back and forth with him in the media either. I just, last I checked.
Hang on. So let me ask you this. More important for Shanahan's future, the last 4 games in meaningless contests or his relationship with RG3, LeVar? We'll get some extra time if we need it.
I don't need extra time. His relationship with RG3 will dictate everything. I think that's what it comes.
So does he need the endorsement? Does he need RG3's endorsement to Snyder to stay?
Well, I think he's going to be here for another year. I really do. I don't see any coaching prospects out here that you would say it's worth starting over when he has one more year. Were we going to pay him $7 million to go sit home and find another coaching prospect to get going? That's another staple of the culture of this organization. I think he'll finish, but it ultimately comes back to what's the relationship between him and RG3, and can he give a clear enough picture to Daniel Snyder going forward as to what they can expect. And I think that that's fair. You're paying a guy that amount of money yearly. He could at least do that.